Hey, good afternoon, everyone. Today is Friday, August 25th, 2023. This is our fourth episode of Neat Network in Cool Capacity. It's been a couple months here now since, actually more than 2 months, about two and a half months, right, Rick? Since we've gotten a chance to catch up here. As opposed to being hot and sunny and dry, it's rainy, it's thunderstormy, it's windy, we got streets flooding here. We had tornadoes touching down, tornado warnings and watches, etc. So I'm kind of curious, what's new in your world, Rick? What's going on, man?
Well, I was up in Michigan yesterday. I got to see some of that flooding yesterday. Storms yesterday morning weren't near as bad, I think, as what happened today. Every day we hit the ground running. So this morning, with the storms that hit, I want to help out our Michigan folks there, our brothers up there in the network side. A lot of bad storms went through. My counterpart, we've been just scrambling, trying to get some manpower, some generators. What can we do to get the customers back up and on and everybody's service working? You guys took a beating with the weather. And it's been miserably hot, I think, just about everywhere in the Midwest. Definitely not pleasant weather this week, and then to top that off with some good storms have been rolling through. We've been busy. So, but other than that, things are good. Busy's good. I'm going to talk a little bit for our chapter. So we're working. We've got our golf outing for Central Indiana's coming up. The next month, the 21st. So we got that coming up. Been doing a lot of work towards that, working with our vendors, our sponsors.
Do you still plan to show up to your golf outing as Sasquatch, or no? Are we not doing that?
It's going to depend on the weather. So, if it's 105 degrees, you just see me fall out on it. I don't want, So if it's cool, we have a nice cool morning, then maybe Sasquatch will show up. But it's looking real good. I think we're going to have a good outcome there. Good turnout for that. I know we've got some Comcast meetings going on at that time that's going to draw some new people to our golf outing, which ought to be pretty exciting. All in all, course is the same one we've been playing on. It's a pretty nice course, and we look forward to it. So if you're interested, 9:21, shotgun start, registration's 8:30. Outside of that, we just piggybacked a quick training with the Kentucky group, the Bluegrass Chapter, this week on high splits. Thanks to the Bluegrass Chapter for including Central Indiana in that training, letting us be a part of that. It was great content. And then sounds like maybe you guys got a pretty good one coming up. Quick training for you guys.
Yeah, so we do have in-person rural broadband. It's actually our first in-person official training since before COVID. If you exclude vendor day and golf outing, I think we're expecting a decent turnout. But as you know, I think there's a lot of chapters out there that are still struggling to get back to in-person events and kind of what those look like, which I think is interesting. If you rewind back a few years ago, all of the issues we all had with virtual trainings and the obstacles we had to overcome with those, right? So it's come back full circle for us.
I'd echo that. And, down here we struggle. We've had some in-person. I think our next training, at least I'm hopeful that we will be able to pull off our test equipment. Round tables is what we call it. It's typically an in-person one. We bring vendors in, bring techs in, and we train them at stations for an hour on different equipment. Hopefully that's our next in-person, but, we got accustomed to the virtual. It's easy for us logistically. And, as we roll out of 23, trying to figure out what's the best step. And I think maybe a modified version is still the best way to go for us, with some in-person, some virtual. But hopefully next year we'll get back to some more in-person next year. So we will see how it goes, though. Maybe something changes between now and then, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
I'm going to save a couple, right? So there's some other big SCTE stuff, happening. But I'm going to save that. How do you feel about bringing our guest in for today?
I think now is probably about the time to bring them in, right?
Absolutely.
I've, I don't know our guest a whole lot too well, other than announcing him at the Re-Energize task force as part of CLC, right? And I know that he brings a wealth of knowledge to the industry and to SCTE as a whole. And I believe he's got about 43 to 44 years in the industry. So not only is he out of his teenage years, but by this point, he's a fiscally responsible adult. So at this point, I'd like to go ahead and bring in Secretary of Buckeye Chapter, Dan Levac. Dan, how are you today? What's going on, man?
I tell you what, after that introduction, I couldn't be better. I mean, I sit back and first of all, you think I'm an adult and I'm responsible. Yeah, I got a lot of people that would disagree with that. Rick's probably one of them. But I appreciate it. Yeah, I've been in the industry an awful long time, but I got to tell you, just so that I want to frame this correctly for this conversation. The wealth of knowledge part, okay? I'm never the smartest person in a room, all right? Even if I'm the only person in a room, it's a toss-up. So I just want to make sure that you don't get your hopes up too high as we go through this whole process. But I really appreciate what we've got going here. I'm proud of you guys for what you're doing here, is putting the word out and being part of a solution rather than talk in a vacuum and not spread your wealth of knowledge as well. So I appreciate that and thank you.
Yeah, so I've got another question. I see you're pretty active on LinkedIn, as we probably all are here. How was the Fiber Connect event, and can you describe that for some of our listeners who might only be used to things like SCTE Expo?
Oh, that's a really good question. Fiber Connect this year was pretty good. It was phenomenal. It was down at the Gaylord down in Kissimmee, Florida. 4,000 registered. And they have a really good series of different verticals that you can go and do training on. And they have these different tracks, if you will, to have open discussions. And one of the goals that I have right now for the industry is not about self, right? So I'm trying to push a narrative that makes sure that the SCTE talks to the FBA or the Fiber Broadband Association with the Fiber Connect. Make sure we're talking to the PCCA, which is the Power and Communication Contractors Association, which I've been a member of for well over 20 years. And we have to have a certain amount of, what am I looking for here? Transparency between the groups. So there's communication and collaboration. There's so many smart people out there. My job right now, the way I look at it, is to bring some of these groups together so that you understand that everybody has a competency, everybody has a core strength. And I think understanding perspectives from someone else's perspective makes us better, makes us stronger as a group. But overall, the FBA and the Fiber Connect show was phenomenal. It was great. As a matter of fact, one of my guys, Brendan O'Boyle, won the Photon Award as being the guy that exudes leadership within the industry and donates his time.
Very cool.
And that's another big thing. That's another big thing I love about the SCTE. It's donated time. I know we all have our other day jobs to do, but good God, man, let's give of ourselves.
Absolutely. What's been the most exciting thing about being on the Re-Energize task force, and what's been like your most favorite part of it, and then what's also been your biggest challenge too?
The biggest challenge is the intelligence part, right? So I'm in a room with a bunch of much smarter people than myself. But that is also the best part of it, because boy, did I get to learn a lot from a lot of smart people that are on that committee. The best part for me actually is just being selected for it, to be asked to serve. I was honored to be thought of in that with those people that were on that committee with me. I learned an awful lot. Second best part was it's now over. But that was like an 8-month stint, right? So that was 8 months. Every 2 weeks, the groups got together and we threw a bunch of stuff and bandaged stuff back and forth, and it was great. I mean, you talk about brainstorming, right? And so that's what this was, and we got to see things from many different perspectives, from the company's perspective, from the manufacturer's perspective, from the SCTE's perspective, and we're all bashing that stuff about. It was really cool. And we talk about training, right? We talked about, Rick, you just said something about the 1 hour time click it. we threw out there that maybe we should reduce that to like 15-minute increments. So because sometimes we get training that's on the the webinars, and it's like, oh my God, my ears are bleeding, my eyes are bleeding, I got to get out of this, I'm looking for a 9mm. But this 15-minute increment would allow us to put 4 15-minute increments together and get an hour of training, or attainable in some instances, right? Because there's some topics, they don't require an hour. They require 15 minutes. If they require 30 minutes, cool, then you break 2 30-minute sessions up and get it. Other things that we talked about was like on the SCTE website, when it came down to the chapter leaders availability of what's there, let's put some additional information up there. Let's put a spreadsheet up there that shows of everybody that's on a committee or everybody that's on a chapter board list.
A wiki of sorts. Very cool. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, did they sign their conflict of interest form?
Yes.
That way we don't have to keep bugging SCTE to say, which one of our people haven't hit that nut yet, and then keep going that way. So just stuff like that. But I really enjoyed being it. It was a great learning experience for me, and that's the other thing too that I challenge people: don't ever stop learning.
Right. You kind of touched on the shared repository thing too, and I think we all feel that pain, right, as chapters, especially as some of us go-getters that love to turn our paperwork on time, right? And I think it's cool that they're morphing into the digital age, if you will, of shared information and shared data.
Yeah, Robin Fenton is a great leader, and she puts a lot of work into this stuff, and but I do challenge her thought process on one thing, and that she's got me on the awards and compliance subcommittee now after that. And but again, I'm happy and I'm honored to do it, and I like to be part of these things. But a depository too, and that's, there's other chapters that are doing great things. Rick, I know you guys are doing great things, and Sam Akoff of Michigan is doing great things. Sam and I talked about some stuff that he's got some playbooks written. So I stole his idea. Actually, I gave him credit for it, but I said to that Re-Energize group, let's look at chapters as a franchise almost. And I'm not saying that it has to be cookie cutter, but if we created, if the headquarters created playbooks for all the key positions and key events that would enable people to be more successful, why wouldn't we do that? Why do we always have to reinvent the wheel?
Right.
Now that doesn't mean we can't add our spin to it. Like Bigfoot, or Sasquatch attending the golf outing. That's cool stuff. The Buckeye Chapter, we do it at the zoo, right? Different spin.
Yes, and actually you hit on that. I know there were a couple people that showed up to our golf outing, right? Our Great Lakes golf outing, and they were raving about your event, Dan. They thought it was really cool. Some of our fiber team had showed up there, and they said it was just an outstanding event. In fact, it was to the point where they were like, how come you guys don't do anything like this? And I was like, come on, man. But, yeah.
And what a venue for your guys' vendor show and then your golf outing, right? I got to attend. Appreciate you guys having me there. I've heard stories, how amazing it is, and it lived up to everything. Now, I'm not a golfer. I didn't show up the day before. That's why, because I don't like to golf. And my Sasquatch suit was in the cleaners. So, but to pull that off, and I know that was a challenge for your guys' chapter to organize that, and it took some work to get there, and then pull off a successful event. And I think, to your point, you nailed it. Why are we reinventing the wheel every time? We do have some standards that SCT gives us. The industry's changing, and so are the chapters. So let's take, we call it best practice a lot. Let's take those best practices. Let's build that handbook that's good. Let's share it. And that's what I like about this and this kind of a platform is we're gonna brainstorm. I talk to Eric a lot. I talk to Sam. I try to keep pretty close with the chapters in Region 7. Because everybody's doing something great. How can I take what you guys are doing, put my spin on it,
and still give you credit
make it work for my chapter?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And try to get extra points is my game. But
teamwork points.
how can I get extra points?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, I like that teamwork thing too. And one of the things on the Buckeye chapter that we decided to do is outreach, right? So I think if the SCTE as an organization stagnates, it withers on the vine and it goes away. It becomes unnecessary. So we're kind of brainstorming with the group and kind of threw out a suggestion that what I'd like to do is to buy 100 memberships for the SCTE. Our chapter, just buy 100 memberships for the SCTE. And then the board divvies them up. Or you just come back and say, hey, look, I think this guy from the Chamber of Commerce would be a phenomenal addition to the SCTE. Here's why.
Idea. Yes.
List it out. Go for it. And for me, contractors. I think we need to reach out and do more outreach for contractors, right? Whether it's through the PCC. I've already got a guy. I mean, it's like, boom, this is it. We're doing it. So I went to Robin and asked her if this was something that's doable. She goes, you're out of your mind.
Yeah.
How am I going to put that together? Blah, blah, blah. But again, Robin did her normal, Blue Fairy kind of stuff. And boom, next thing you know, she says, Dan, I got you. I got what you wanted. And I said, cool. The board shot down 100, but they said I could buy 50. so we actually bought 50 memberships, and it's tied to a code, right? So I don't know if you guys saw my business cards. On the back of the business cards, I got a QR code that brings you right to the membership page at the SCTE. And so I'm trying to promote, even externally from the SCTE, to bring other people in, to open the curtain and to be more transparent about what we do, because I believe it's a phenomenal organization. But I think we need to grow. We need to come up with new ideas. And there's a lot of smart people out there in the chapters. I think that we would be very successful in doing.
Yeah, I think that's good stuff, Dan. So if we could kind of rewind back, since I had, started at the beginning with you being a fully grown adult, like in your work field now, and in your 43 to 44 years of experience, you kind of go back and explain what young Dan did in the cable world years ago, if you will.
Yeah, I can take, my history is like sorted, right? So I'm an ex-Canadian, I'm still Canadian, but I'm now an American citizen. But way back when I got my start, I started working outside plant for Bell Canada. Spin back a little bit. I mean, I quit high school and went to work in a factory. Went back to high school, got my diploma because Bell said they wouldn't hire me unless I had my 12th grade diploma. Got that, and at the time, I didn't know what I wanted to do as a kid. All I knew is that I wanted to make money. I wanted a job. Believe it or not, I started as a janitor. And worked my way up through that type of environment. I did maintenance, I did equipment technician, and then because of the hard work, the construction guys said, "Hey, look, you want to come over to our side? You want to, be a cable splicer? Do you want to get into it?" And I said, "Yeah, if it's a promotion, I'm in." And it was. So I said, "Good." Fast forward, after 10 years in the outside plant, I moved to the United States and started over again. I started as a trainer, right, as a product demonstrator for PLP. Been with them for over 35 years, and or right in around that mark, anyways. And then I built it from there. And I guess the key to the success and the way I looked at things, and Rick and I, we talked about perspective a little bit before, right? And so on the perspective note, guys, what I always followed as a philosophy was keep your nose to the grindstone, work real hard, but be focused on what you're doing. Don't worry about what everybody else is doing. Just do your job. And then when you really master it, then you get to take the step back to broaden your perspective, do more things, learn more things, and then you focus on that little bit, and then, rinse and repeat kind of thing.
I like that.
Keep going back, and then your perspective changes again. And now I've been blessed, guys. I've traveled around the world and done a lot of work, and I admit I haven't been involved with the CATV and the SCTE for my entire career. But when I see something and jump in, I'm all in, and I'm going to give you everything I got. Because at this point in my life, I think we have to be more than about oneself. We have to be more than about a company we work for. We have to drive and understand that this is about service. Look at what you guys do. Look at what the companies do. Our end goal is to provide service to customers, to provide service to end users. As a human being, we're the same. Our goal should be to provide service to people that need us, right? And that's why I volunteer everywhere I go, because I think it's essential for us to lead by example. That's why I live this way.
You definitely set an example, and a good example at that. You know, when we were trying to work out the schedule, you're like, hey, can we move it to this? I got this going on. And I'm like, how? And I got to ask, how do you do it? How do you juggle so many things? Because I feel like you got to be pulled 7 different directions every 10 minutes, every day. And then when you do figure that juggling, what do you do to cut away from it and relax? What do you do for fun?
Oh, that's so
how
cool.
do you juggle it all? And then how do you relax after
and it's funny because you say being pulled in so many different directions. You're only pulled if you're not willing to go.
True.
If you're not willing to set this up as a service-oriented thing, and I'm sorry for being so philosophical about it, but if we're pulled into something, that means we generally don't want to be there, right?
Absolutely.
So
I never thought of it that way.
I just love what I do. I love being part of as many things as I
can.
can.
It gets back to perspective, Dan, with what you just said, being pulled in. And what Rick just said, I've never thought of that either. So, well.
So, but that's what drives me, and so I do everything I can to be able to facilitate having time for those things. And I tell you what, some of my guys and they get really frustrated with me because I talk about perspective all the time. And then they tell me about how much time they have in a day and what they're doing. And I said, dude, there's 24 hours in a day. You're only using a few of them. Good God, man, there's more hours in a day. And I said, did you also know that there's this thing called Saturday and Sunday? I said, you will get out of it what you put into it.
Speaking of Saturdays, do you spend your Saturdays doing secretary work like so many other first-time secretaries, or do you have it mastered outside of Saturdays?
Yeah, mastered. That's a great word too. Again, I'm continuing to learn, and I plagiarize a lot, and I don't reinvent the wheel. You know that whole concept about working smarter and working harder? That's total BS. You just got to work hard. That's the way it comes down to it, right? So, but as far as mastering the secretary role, before I get on a board meeting, I've already got my template up and I've already written basically everything I know, because I reach out to the treasurer, I get their information, I upload it in first, and everything I know that the president wants to talk about, I've already bullet pointed it in the notes. So that by the time the meeting's over, usually about 15 minutes after, I'm ready to send it out to the board for approval, and then I send it up to chapters. So I try to get ahead of it as much as I can. And guys, anything we do, the most important thing we do is called preparation.
Yes.
In anything we do, it's preparation. The more prepared you are, the more effortless it seems.
Sometimes I find it, completely relaxing to prepare.
Yeah.
Right? Like, whose definition of relaxing is planning and preparing? Me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's cool. But that's what makes things flow too, right? People say, oh, he does it so easy. Yeah, dude, you don't see. I'm like a duck, right, on the water. You guys don't see what my legs are doing under there.
Right.
Well, the short time that I've known you, I figured out that there is a lot of movement under that water. And each time, each conversation we have, each interaction, I definitely pick up some bits and pieces. So I want to say to you, thank you for that, right? I really do appreciate that. Earlier you touched on something that hits home with me is you're never the smartest person in the room. So my little back is always, I don't want to be the smartest person in the room. If I am, I'm in the wrong room, right? So right out of the gate, you started with that one. and then a couple little nuggets here that you've dropped on us that have been phenomenal. What does Dan do for fun? You say work.
Well, no, it's not work, though, if you're enjoying what you do, right? I love what I do. I love my family. I love being around my family. I love fishing. I love going fishing. And I like the downtime on things, too. But I've been accused of being the same person everywhere I go. And that's true, right? And so I guess the ones that don't like it the most are my kids, right? When you're philosophical with your kids, it's like, Dad, really? I mean, come on. Cut a break. I don't work for you. And I said, yeah, no, but you do. You do. If you created grandkids for me, you work for me.
That's true. There you go.
So, but that's, I have, one of the things I really enjoy doing, guys, is observing. Whether I'm in an airport, and I travel extensively, whether I'm in a classroom facility, I listen to people, and I think that's what makes me different in regards to my perspective speech thing, is because just yesterday I gave a motivational kind of hour lunch and learn for a group of people at our company at PLP, and it was one of those things that I said, they said, what makes you different? And I said, I listen. And I said, don't just say listen. I mean, really listen to people, and really listen, because I said people as the human race, they want two things in life. They want two, that's it, two. I can boil it down to two pretty simple. One is respect, and the second one is love. And I'm not going to get all gushy on you with the love part of it, but what does love mean, right? Love means I want to be heard, I want to be noticed, I want to be recognized, I want to be appreciated, and then you can go from there. But the only way you do that is to truly listen to people. And of all the years that I've been at PLP, and I've been quote unquote selling, right? I've been in the sales group the whole time. With all of the organizations I belong to, I never sell. I never talk about our product. I serve. And by serving, that comes back to my earlier point. You get out of it what you put into it. We just gave away a scholarship, a couple of scholarships from the Buckeye Chapter, right? So I'm on the scholarship committee, go figure. I met with the young man that won the first place scholarship of $2,500 and his family. And so we're at lunch and during his move-in day. And I asked him, I said, I don't want to put you on the spot, but how much time did you put into this scholarship? To the application, to the all the documents you had to compile, and, your essay and all that stuff. And I said, look, I don't want to, kind of downplay it, but how much time did you play? Hour, 2 hours? I said, well, yeah. I said, cool. I said, do you realize you just made $2,500 an hour? Now, does that not relate to you get out of it what you put into it?
Absolutely.
And think about that for everything we do. That's why I always said, and I lost my father when I was only 14, but in the time I had with him, I looked to him as a true understanding of leadership. And I'm the youngest of 7 that are current, that are alive. There was 10 of us originally. But I was the last, right? And they all, how you say, they saved the best for last.
Baby.
Yeah, I'm the baby.
Big family.
Baby. And one of the things my dad always taught me is that you be the very best you can be no matter what you do. Don't worry about being the best ever, or better than Rick, or better than Eric. Just worry about focusing on yourself, right? That's that perspective. And he said, I don't care what you do, even if you're a janitor. If you're the best you can be, people will notice that, and then you'll get to change your perspective. And I took that with me through my entire life. I think, what a great piece of advice. And I preach that to all the new people that come in. The unfortunate thing right now, speaking of perspective, it changes within the generations, right? My perspective, or my concept of patience, could be 27 years. their perspective or concept of patience could be 27 seconds. So what we have to do is to be able to communicate and listen to what their requests and requirements are. Because sometimes they don't believe our perspective counts. When I say our, not you two, because you're too young, but me, right? When you hit a certain plateau, I'm one of the last of the boomers, they don't think you understand anything.
You know nothing and you're worthless and weak.
Pretty much. But it's interesting how when you outreach and you really truly listen, you have a better idea or understand. And guys, I never had this perspective all the way through.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
I mean, good God, man. I mean, it takes a while to build that understanding. And even 15 years ago, I know you guys are going to be surprised by this, but I was a kind of a, type A personality. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I'll be.
But
I would have never guessed.
yeah, but the cool thing about that though is that I still am that type A, but it's kind of how do I phrase it? I'm kind of like a slow A. I've learned to take the step back now because I've been in the industry for over 40 years, and in the 40 years I can count on one hand how many people I've met that have truly been not nice people, that have been like, borderline on Satan, right? I mean, less than 5, and that's in 40 years. So what does that tell you? Again, that means you have to kind of reevaluate when you meet someone. You know that for the most part, people are good. But when you meet someone that you've already known and you know them and you've got them in that good bucket and they're a real nasty person that day, do I sit there and cast aspersions on that person because they're mean or nasty to me? Heck no. Take a step back and understand, hey, that guy was really good the first 5 times I met him. And now all of a sudden he's got a straw stuck up somewhere. And yeah, you know what? Let's give him some grace, because I don't know. Maybe he just separated. Maybe
what is
he ran over his dog
going
on the
through?
way to work.
Yeah.
What is he going? And I can't experience everything that people experience, right? So
It's a great point.
give a bit of grace, and I think that will take us to the next level, right? So, which is, it doesn't hurt to be nice. It doesn't hurt to reach out your hand. There's no skin off my back. And my point earlier, now I hope you guys edit this part out, right? Because I've got an image to uphold out there. I'm cold and heartless, right? That's what we want to portray. The biggest thing I look at it in regards to that is you gotta have backing, right? We need people. That's just life. That's the way it is. I mean, I need my wife. I mean, we've been married almost 42 years. It will be 42 years this year. And my God, she's been my cornerstone. She's been the one that promotes me and pushes me. We all need someone to push us, right? And I think that, or at least be there to support, and by that extension is to push. It's like, I can guarantee that I know who, if I need a good stiff kick in the butt, to get motivated or to get something going, I know who I can turn to, because she's honest with me, she's transparent with me, and she gives me phenomenal advice.
Well, if you ever need a kick in the butt and she's busy, we're not that far apart. That's all I'm saying. I'm here for you as a friend. I don't want to fall on that short list, but it would all be in motivation. So, no, phenomenal points, and you know, I have a wife that supports me and is willing to work with a crazy schedule, as your wife has for years and years, right? And you're 100% right. It's a huge piece of who you are and who you've become and how you've gotten there by having that support. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a wife either, you know. No. But just good point after point after point that really hits home. I think with a lot of us and a lot of people that are going to listen to this, they should get some value out of what you're saying. Being nice to people costs nothing.
There's been a lot of knowledge nuggets here, to your point, Rick. Just knowledge nugget after knowledge nugget for our listeners.
Yeah, which might come from years of experience, right? Be nice to people. The world needs more of that. Stand back when, we all have bad days. I have them, and sometimes I don't need you to ask me a million questions while I'm having a bad day. Step back.
Yeah.
So, great stuff.
That's the grace part, right? So, and it's really funny because there's some points that my wife gets upset with me if we're driving down the road and someone cuts me off. She goes, "Why didn't you hit the horn? Why didn't you flip the bird?" And I said, "Well, first of all, is there any value in it?"
It's better to give them a
me,
thumbs down, if
in it.
anything. But yeah.
Yeah, well, it's not only the value part, but here's where my selfish part comes in. My God, what if it's Rick Taylor? What if it's a possible customer? I don't want to insult them.
Right.
I prefer to do that face to face, but
it's much better received face to face, right?
Yeah.
I think you both had touched on something earlier too. I think it's completely undervalued, right, in being a good person, but then also being easy to work with, right? If you guys have ever been told, like, you're easy to work with, or such and such is so easy to work with, that's a craft. That isn't just, like, it doesn't just happen. You know what I mean? You never know what that person is feeling internally, but they make it super easy on the surface.
So let's talk more about work, and we're going to get back into some Buckeye. What's in your mind, Dan? What's the next big step for the Buckeye chapter? What are you guys looking at? And you guys are doing so many awesome things with the scholarship, the Sioux piece. What do the conversations look like in the Buckeye chapter going into the end of the year next year?
Yeah, I think really a hard look at the membership piece and the outreach piece. And one of the things, and it's not just for the SCTE, but it's for every trade, right? Unfortunately, in today's environment, guidance counselors, for instance, at the high school level, are bonused and paid predicated on how many butts they put in the college seats. That, to me, is unjust. It creates an injustice to the point that the trades that we create, we train for, right? I mean, there's so many different training opportunities within the industries that we serve. And when I say the industry we serve, I'm just going to go blast it and say broadband, communications broadband. So like I said earlier, you've got the FBA, the ISE, BICSI, you've got AFCEA, which is a military offshoot. You've got the PCCA. PCCA has a wonderful training program. Everybody has their own idea what's important, and the thing is nobody's looking to see how it all fits together. I mean, FBA's got what they call the optics training program, which is a big program that could include all kinds of different things, up to 8 weeks, and it's in depth with fiber and all that stuff. It's a phenomenal program. But did you realize that for every fiber splicer that's created, it takes 20 construction jobs to get the fiber to that person?
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah.
But wait, there's more. It also takes anywhere upwards of 75 people to be qualified in the manufacturing area. So whether it's manufacturing people on the shop floor, whether it's, heaven forbid, salespeople, whether it's marketing people or engineers, 75. Want to know what? There's even more. There's another layer on top of that. It takes upwards of 500 trained people to actually be qualified instructors. So you see, if you take that step back, you start to get a bigger picture of what's out there and what's needed.
Especially considering the way our technology's going with the numbers you're putting out there. Yes.
Oh, man, the technology thing, that's one of my favorite subjects because, again, I've been in it so long. I have seen more advancement in 2023 than I did in the first 40 years combined. That's how fast this is moving.
Yeah.
I mean, I read about eight periodicals a month, and that's just to try to stay current, right? And if it wasn't for me having the opportunity to be with folks like yourselves and with the SCTE and with the FBA and with the PCCA, that gives me insight and learning capacities that I never thought I could have. I wanted to fit the word capacity in there somewhere because of the title of your podcast. But yeah, the whole Neat Network and Cool Capacity podcast, I really like that name, guys. That's really cool.
Oh, thanks, man. It was all Rick's idea last year.
Eric caught me at the right time, and that's how this all evolved. We had talked about it, no different than you and I had talked about it at your vendor show. You know, you said, man, somebody needs to do a podcast. Well, we had a couple under our belt, right? But Eric calls me out of the blue. I was down on a work trip. Out of the blue, Eric called and he said, man, we really should do this. You know, we were already collaborating between chapters. And I guess he caught me at the right time, because this is definitely something out of my comfort zone.
I knew I couldn't do it all on my own. And I think we were talking, and I'm like, hey, if you know somebody that wants to do a podcast with me by any chance. And I was like, wait a minute, what the heck did I just say? Rick, let's do it.
You were fishing, I think, is what you were doing there.
Well, what a good fish to catch.
No, it's been great.
Yeah. It's this is what I was talking about a little bit earlier too. I like the fact that you guys are willing to put it out there. I'm pretty shy and laid back, so it's not really the same for me. But when I see you guys do what you're doing, it gives me hope. And the reason I say that is because, look, I'm on a lot of different committees for a lot of different things. And one committee, I'm not going to name anything because I don't want to throw anybody under the bus. But as I sit in there and listen, and some of these guys are really, really smart, right? We're talking PhD guys in this room. And as we go through this, I said, can I bring the whole group down for just a minute here and bring it to my level? I just got one question. Who are you trying to target? Who's your audience? Because right now, you guys are all trying to tell each other how smart you all are. And if that's all you're doing, you're in a vacuum and nobody's going to get the message. Marketing of what we do and how we work together to amplify that message and get it out to as many people as we can is how we're going to be successful.
Yeah,
not
that
just
collaboration
talking
piece.
amongst one or two people.
Right. Yeah.
So I mean, PLP just started its own podcast, right? We call it Connecting the Lines because we're in all the different verticals of communication.
I just watched it the other day too, by the way. Great job. It's packaged together really well. And maybe someday Rick and I will do video too.
Actually, I would like to invite you guys to do the PLP Connecting the Lines podcast, because our goal for that is not necessarily product centric. It's not PLP centric, as a matter of fact. We're reaching out to subject matter experts, except for the first one. We just had to test the waters. Myself and one of my guys, Brendan O'Boyle, did it. So Eric, you probably noticed me sweating like crazy. That's just blood pressure. Don't worry about it. And I've had a pretty good run, but we would like to have you guys come in there with your subject matter expertise. And again, it doesn't have to be concentrated on a specific company. I look at this as an opportunity to share it with the industry.
Yeah.
And I think it solidifies our place in the industry and what we're trying to do to accomplish a common goal.
And we all know how to neutralize things and keep things, at high level, especially for the companies we work for. I think that's something that Rick and I talked about originally too. Is staying sensitive to the companies we work for, but also broadening the message, to your point, Dan.
Absolutely. Cross-promoting, right? So when we get this, if you allow me, I'm going to share that link on our website. And then, of course, we're going to push it out on LinkedIn. Rick probably has about 1 billion followers out there. I got a couple, and then we can go ahead and send it out and start. But that's that whole concept. It all starts at 2, right? And you tell 2 friends, and you tell 2 friends, and you tell 2 friends, etc. And then it multiplies out there. I'm just proud to be part of the industry, and I've been blessed because I've got to make a living at something I love to do.
As I sit back, I'm sorry, Rick. Go ahead.
Industry. That's one thing. every conversation I've had with you, Dan, is it's forward thought, and I love it, man. It's about the industry. It's never about the business, your business, what you're doing. How can we provide something bigger for the industry? And you've said it several times here, but I think every time that we've talked, outside of a couple short messages, that has come in, and then what you always say, you know, what can we do for that industry? And that's changed my mindset, and that's part of this, right? You know, absolutely, if we can get some time together, I'd sit on the your PLP podcast, whatever we call it today.
I'd love to as well.
I was excited to see it. I haven't listened to it. I can't wait to see you sweating through it. But I caught it late last night, and it's been crazy. And I thought, he said he wanted to do one. He's got one going there. What's the next? And we had already had this booked, so I knew you'd be an expert here. But congratulations on getting that one off the ground. And absolutely, we should sit down and figure that out. I want to take, and Eric doesn't know this yet. I think Eric's going to Expo. He doesn't know that I'll probably be there for a couple days, but I want to take one of these. Maybe it's this podcast. I think that we could work with the girls at National, and they would set us a little spot aside and grab a guy or two that are walking through, or a vendor or something, and we're gonna go, Eric. Whether you like it or not, we should go live.
I'm in. We can go live. We talked about it at CLC, but I think we should actually do it this time.
Yeah, and I think, you know, depending on how CLC unfolds for next year, I think it's another opportunity, and then just to share some of the stuff, right? You know, and get that word out. You know, but I think at Dirty Jobs, when you talked about the all the people it takes, you know, the pushing everybody to get a college degree. What about everybody else? You know, and how do we share it? And I love that you, Eric, and I all have this mindset of like, let's get it out there. Let's get it to the masses. You know, let's talk it up.
I think someone has to take the bull by the horns on the thought process on how this works and how this looks. And again, I make it a point to really observe and to really see things for what they are. And I kind of try to always look behind the curtain to see who's running the levers on stuff. One of the things that came across in my thought process, and again, mine's pretty warped, right? So, but I sat back and I looked at words that people were using during COVID, when COVID started. And the key one that came into my head was essential. To me, essential is a positive, strong word, right? But it was utilized as a separator. It was used as a divider that said, you're essential, you're not essential, you're essential, you're not essential. I look at this and I'm not going to let people redefine the words for what they mean to me. And to me, essential means play a pivotal role in something that you do, right? So recently, I was honored enough to be awarded to the Hall of Fame for the PCCA, the Power and Communication Contractors Association. And during my speech, I had like 450 people there, and one of the key points and takeaways that I provided was every person that's in this audience, and I believe this to be every person that's going to listen to this podcast, is directly responsible for bettering the lives of every man, woman, and child in this country. Now that's essential, because we're providing a positive outlook, working together for a common good or for common goal. And I'm not going all communist on you. I just think that's something that has to be part of our life. It's something that we have to do, is to make people understand that they're important and be nice. And the more you treat people with respect, the more apt they are to join the group, the more apt they are to want to be part of a process that brings us to a successful conclusion of a positive endeavor.
I love it, and I wish we had another hour for this. I've got approximately 1 minute. So unless Rick's got a cable dad joke.
I don't have a cable dad joke. I didn't come prepared. I didn't prepare enough. But I do want to say, Dan, it's been an awesome time with you. Really appreciate you taking time out of your day, your schedule, and meeting with us. I'm going to pass it to Eric. Eric, you got any jokes?
Why don't salmon watch cable television?
Why why don't salmon watch cable television?
They prefer streams.
I thought it was going to do that cable goes downstream and salmon go upstream. But anyways, that was cool.
If you got one, Dan, now's the time.
How many lawyer jokes? I got one. How many lawyer jokes are there?
How many?
2. All the rest are true stories.
Very well said.
All right, thanks for your time today, Dan.
My absolute pleasure. I appreciate the offer.
Look forward to doing it again, maybe on a different platform. But hopefully we'll see you soon in the future. And everybody have a great day. To all the line workers, technicians, and the field people out there working storms today, be safe out there. Thanks, Eric, for putting this all together. And we'll talk next time, gentlemen.
All right, we'll see you guys at Expo. Thank you. See ya.
All right, bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Bye.